Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. The draw for the group stage of the 2020-2021 UEFA Champions League was held earlier on Thursday in Geneva, Switzerland. So this is what the draw served up. Drogba and Malouda, ex-Chelsea players presiding over it. Group A has Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Salzburg and Lokomotiv Moscow. Group B, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Porto in Group C, along with Man City, Olympiacos and Olympique Marseille. Group D has Liverpool and Ajax, the pedigree teams, then Atalanta and FC Midtjylland. Group E, the Europa League winners, Sevilla, there with the Moneybags, Chelsea, Krasnodar and Rennes. In Group F, Zenit St. Petersburg, Borussia Dortmund, good to see Lazio back in the Champions League, and Club Brugge. Group G has Juventus, Barcelona, Dinamo Kiev and Ferencváros. And Group H, the group of death, Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester United, RB Leipzig, Istanbul Başakşehir. It is a group that has the beaten finalists last year and one of the semi-finalists as well. Yeah. Also on Thursday, UEFA announced that fans will be allowed at matches pending approval of local authorities. This is what UEFA tweeted, and they say they will allow up to a third of the capacity of the host stadium. That is if the rules on the ground allow for any assembly of sorts by sports fans at any stadiums at an outdoor facility. Well, joining us on Zoom to react to the draw is former Trinidad and Tobago international Brent Sancho. He's one of ours. And the former West Ham, Aston Villa and Bolton Wanderers midfielder Nigel Reo-Coker. Nigel played 205 Premier League games between 2005 and 2012. He scored 10 goals. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Brent. Good afternoon, Nigel.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good. All right, Brent, you're a gracious man. You wouldn't mind us giving our guest he's here with us for the first time, giving him first crack. Nigel, what do you make of, let's start with Group H, because I'm a Manchester United fan, I can confess, and I was praying against hope that, I wouldn't get Leipzig in the group after I got PSG, but I have Leipzig, I have the Turkish team Istanbul Başakşehir, and I have PSG. How difficult is this Group H for the English team to get out of?
It's a very difficult group for Manchester United. I think right now, if you compare, because I think it's easier now to compare the Champions League draw with also English clubs' domestic form. And right now, you look at Manchester United, they're trying to bolster up their attacking threat, but realistically, defensively, they're poor. They're not at the level they need to be defensively to see them as a threat in the Champions League competition right now. So for me, if you're a Manchester United fan, you'd be worried with that group, with the threat you're going to face from Paris Saint-Germain and Leipzig. Two very good teams, great attacking threat. And when your defense really isn't at the level it should be for competing in the Premier League, you're going to struggle even more so in the Champions League. So
would you, if you were to place an early wager on the outcome of the matches in this group, Nigel, or the final standings in the group, would you be brave enough to say, okay, you're picking PSG and Leipzig as the top two from this four?
I would say so, yes. Unless Manchester United can really reinforce their team and bolster them defensively. Because if you look at how they've started the Premier League defensively, there's always been a question, even from the later stages of last season. They're not really up to scratch of where they need to be defensively. When you look at the teams that they're competing against, the likes of Liverpool, and even Arsenal strengthened up defensively a bit, even to the likes of Everton. But I would probably say you put Paris Saint-Germain and Leipzig ahead of Manchester United in this group.
Brent, your assessment of Group H?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Nigel is saying. I do worry about Manchester United and their defensive liabilities. We saw it against Brighton recently, and it's a trend that's gone on for quite some time. I think the signing of Bruno Fernandes kind of plastered over some of those efficiencies, and a lot of the attention went to his performance and his play. But since that's, of course, diminished somewhat from what we seen when he first arrived, the reality started to hit home, and it's also a testament to Paris Saint-Germain and Leipzig and what we've seen from them last year and what they've continued to do so far in the league format. I think it'd be a very difficult proposition for Manchester United. Of course, the transfer window still has some days left, and we know Manchester United will be scrambling to bring in some changes to bolster up their squad. But it's a tough ask for them, and it's going to be an interesting group. And as you rightfully said, it's quite easily the group of death.
Nigel, without a doubt, of course, Group G will be the talk of the town. It looks extremely mouth-watering. We're pitting Cristiano Ronaldo up against Messi. What do you think about that group? Brent? Nigel?
The group of death.
That's the group of death. Brent?
I think that's a great group, but it's going to be interesting because you've got two clubs in a complete different transition period right now. Juventus under Pirlo, it's a new experiment. It's completely different. It's obviously historically there's a great foundation of the club of Juventus. You know, they want to compete in the Champions League. They've always had world-class players at that club, but still it's a new era for them with obviously Pirlo becoming a legend at the club and also a world-class player that we all know very well. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make that transition into big management. So for them, it's still a new experiment. It's a new era. Barcelona, for me, is not the Barcelona that we know. It's not the Barcelona of Pep Guardiola. It's not the Barcelona of dominance. They can be beaten. You know, strong, athletic, well-organized teams can beat Barcelona. And the reality of it is, as they now become too much of a heavy reliance on Lionel Messi. So I think if anything, the only fun thing for that group will obviously be what football fans will be about Ronaldo versus Messi. But I think that both teams are in such a transition period right now that I don't see them as a full package as a team, as a threat for this year's Champions League.
Brent, your take on this matchup, of course, Barcelona up against Juventus.
Of course, you know, being a Juventus fan, that it's difficult for me to say any different than, of course, I think Juventus would do well in this group. But, you know, they have not been the Juventus of old that what we've seen. It's remarkable that we're here talking about Champions League football, and we are going to have to mention some of the deficiencies defensively from Juventus, a team known for their prowess at the back and how solid they can be. But over the last 8 months or so, 10 months, they have struggled a bit defensively. They have struggled to find really and truly a role for Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, Pirlo coming in and trying to rectify that. Already, they've had different changes in the way they approach the game from a system point of view. So they have some struggles. And of course, we all know the troubles that Barcelona has been going through over the past couple of months as it relates to Lionel Messi. And now they're revamping of their team. So it's two teams really a shadow of themselves and what we've known from the past. I think they will get out of the group stages, but it's hard to say that they would get very far in the knockout phases. And as a Juventus fan, as much as the saying that hurts me, that is the reality of what we are seeing for both teams.
Nigel, I'm excited to hear what you think about the defending champions Bayern Munich, and can they do it again this year? They will be facing Luis Suarez, Atletico Madrid. Will that be a threat?
I think that with Bayern Munich, when you look at them overall and the performance of them, they're a great team. And I think that's what people need to pay attention to. They're not heavily reliant on one person. They've got a great mix of experience and youth. And I've always been a big believer in football. The greatest success comes from a great balance of experience with youth and also senior players. So that's what Bayern Munich have got. And I think overall, they've kept that team together, apart from obviously the departure of Thiago to Liverpool. But they've got a good enough squad. They've added Leroy Sané, which will give them a different dynamic this season going forward. I think that they'll definitely go far. And I'll be very surprised if they don't probably make the final again, barring any injuries from their major players.
Nigel, twice in the last decade we saw English teams winning the UEFA Champions League, Chelsea 2012 and Liverpool 2019. Talk to us about their chances of taking the title away in this coming season. We know Liverpool remains one of the top teams in Europe. Chelsea has spent a lot of money. I'm pretty certain that they are not confining their hopes to just local or domestic football in England. And Man City for several years have been considered on paper to be one of the best teams in Europe, but not delivering when they leave England. What are your views on the English strength and where they've drawn, I see Chelsea drawn with Sevilla, Krasnodar and Rennes, and Man City in there with Porto, Olympiacos and Marseille. Liverpool, of course, have Ajax on their table.
I think it goes. There's a few things that need to be mentioned again and again. It's the defensive frailties of a lot of these teams, and even with these top teams, when you speak about defensive frailties, we've gone away from the days of defenders who like to defend first and who want to defend first, and their pride and joy is stopping players from scoring goals and conceding goals. You look at Chelsea and a lot of these teams, they're struggling defensively. Whether it's now that the new generation of football players that are being groomed and trained are being groomed to be more playing footballers than actually defenders, that's another argument. I'll probably say out of all the teams in England that people are very well aware of, I think the priority for the Champions League will probably be Manchester City. I think Manchester City have already won the league, they've won the League Cup. They brought Pep Guardiola in to be seen as a European elite. And I know that the Champions League is their priority. Now, with Manchester City, you always feel that they'll get through the group stages, but it's after the group stages, they always seem to hit that stumbling block. And whether it's also because of the competitiveness of the Premier League, because you've got the likes of, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, everyone wants to win the Premier League title. I think with Liverpool fans, they'll be happy to have a great Champions League run again. But again, for them, their priority will probably be winning the Premier League title. So not that these clubs would ever want to really admit to it, but I think that different clubs have different priorities. And if anything, I think with Pep Guardiola and Man City, I think they'll be the main English club that will definitely want to win the Champions League.
Brent, quickly, I've got to squeeze you in here. I heard you talk earlier on, and I'm gleaning from what you're saying that Juve, your team, runners-up twice in the last 6 years, you're suggesting that they are not, or you're not as confident that they can do as well this year as the years in 2015 and 2017 when they got to the final?
Yeah, I do have some question marks, and a lot of it really is around two things. I think Pirlo coming in as a new coach, not tried and tested at the Champions League level. I think that might be a bit of a hindrance for Juventus. And I think, secondly, Cristiano Ronaldo just seems very uncomfortable in his skin since he's joined Juventus. Of course, he's still a very talented talisman and he's still getting the goals, but he's not, I think his overall play hasn't been great, and it seems that Juventus are just trying their best to find a way to fit him in so they can be a lot more fluid, and they lack that. And I just think there are better teams in the Champions League right now, and that is probably where my head is at as it relates to Bayern Munich, Liverpool, and as Nigel mentioned, Man City. I think they have better chances of taking the Champions League.
Yeah, gentlemen, we are going to have to cover a lot more ground when the season gets rolling on October 20 and the group stage wraps up in December. Between October 20 and late December, when it all wraps up, we'll have a lot to say. Just before you go, gentlemen, let me ask you this, Nigel. Let me come to you first. Robert Lewandowski, UEFA Men's Player of the Year. Isn't he very unfortunate to be in this kind of form at a time when there's no Ballon d'Or, Nigel?
I think he's very unfortunate. I think he's been consistent for many years, and obviously now he gets the recognition, and it's probably the worst period in time for any sports team, any sports franchise to win anything where you're not really going to get the recognition because there's so much else going on in the world right now that fans and people can't really be able to pay attention to rejoice and celebrate. But he's been consistent. I think it's been fantastic, and he's been the heartbeat of Bayern Munich for so long now, and it's just unfortunate his recognition comes in this terrible time.
And Brent, you can't blame the Germans for screaming conspiracy theory, because there was a year when Frank Ribery was the best player in the world. They didn't give him the award, and now when Lewandowski has been the best striker in the world, arguably the best player in the world, there's no Ballon d'Or for him either.
Well, I'm going to throw one out there for the football fans around the world. I think Alphonso Davies will be the first Ballon d'Or winner for Bayern Munich. That's a bold shout I'm putting out there as it relates to Bayern Munich and having the Ballon d'Or. I'll put it right squarely on Alphonso Davies' feet.
There you go. Excellent. Nigel, we hope to speak to you again. We'll be keeping in close touch. And Brent, of course, you always have a chair here, my friend. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Good. He captained West Ham, captained Aston Villa as well, Nigel Rio-Coker. And 200 plus games in the English top flight. and one of the outstanding midfielders in that spell. Of course, Bren Sancho played at a FIFA World Cup, a man who knows many things about football, a professional who plied his trade in Europe as well. So Kevin De Bruyne, UEFA Midfielder of the Year. Listen to this. I'm keen on pronunciations and getting them right. The name that we've been calling Joshua Kimmich, he says no. He says his name is pronounced, so Joshua is Joshua Kimmich. Kimmich. Oh dear me. I take a break right now. We come back with more.